I'm Dave Greenwood, and this is Overcoming Distractions. If you are an adult with ADHD, a busy professional, an entrepreneur, a high achiever, or just need some strategies to navigate your adult ADHD, you're in the right place. Who am I? I'm an entrepreneur with ADHD and the author of 2 books, Overcoming Distractions and Overcoming Burnout. I coach and mentor people just like you, and together we navigate the ups and downs of adult ADHD. From getting out of our own way to helping people just like you thrive in the workplace. That's what I do. Want more info on working with me? Hit overcomingdistractions.com. Ready? Let's get to today's podcast. All right, my fellow distracted friends, how are you today? Welcome back. I am so glad that you have joined us. You have hit the download button, whether you're a seasoned listener or you just found us. I am very grateful that you have joined the Overcoming Distractions podcast. If you are that busy professional with ADHD, I don't care if you're the CEO, the PhD, the chief marketing officer, or you're a solopreneur, wherever you are and you're working in an environment that may be a little challenging for you, you have landed in the right place. So, I want to continue our discussion on burnout today because I'm just hearing from more and more of you who are feeling burned out and overloaded. We talked last time about some of the early warning signs of burnout, and I think you need to go back if you haven't listened to that one, because there are some really important early warning signs that you really do need to understand. That's just one episode back from this one. So if you landed on this one and you haven't listened to the early warning signs, it's really important for you to do that, because that is where you can make a meaningful impact on your life when you understand the early warning signs. So, but those of us with ADHD, we're really good at blaming ourselves for our challenges and frustrations. But when we dig in, many times we uncover unhealthy situations in our working environment. Now, I'm a firm believer we're co-founders of our burnout, and that we bring certain habits into our working environment. We talked a lot about this in my book, Overcoming Burnout, which you can find on my website. But this is what we talked about. Is that there's kind of equal distribution of of the symptoms of burnout, or the causes of burnout, right? But many of you are working in that chaotic working environment, a toxic workplace, and there are just things that you will not be able to change. I am a big fan of controlling what you can, but sometimes you get to the point where you figure out that, there's things I can't change. This is not the case all the time, but it is a scenario that I do hear over and over again, and it's 2024, and you would think more organizations would have a grip on culture and ideal working conditions, but sadly, many do not. So one major thing happens to many of us with ADHD or not ADHD when we're going through burnout is we check out. Maybe just those of us with ADHD are better at checking out. And when people experience burnout, they often check out or become disassociated with work as a coping mechanism. And that's how we deal with that overwhelming chronic stress and that exhaustion we feel. So I want to take this time with you today to talk about maybe some of the more particulars and the reasons why we get to that stage of actually checking out. Now, I wanna be clear. I'm not a fan of the quiet quitting phase that we went through, I think, last year. That tells me that somebody just, went in and did their job and phoned it in. I'm talking about burnout and just like mentally checking out. So I want to go through kind of the reasons why we may do this. And I think there's several. And again, we're talking about ADHD. We're talking about burnout. And some of these things we talk about when we cross these lines of ADHD and burnout may seem very similar. So we need to kind of do our part to kind of understand the topic better. So anywho, all right. So number one is that emotional exhaustion, right? Burnout leads to that state of emotional exhaustion where those of us, we feel drained, we feel unable to engage emotionally with our work. And when we're exhausted, that's from chronic stress. It makes it difficult to care about the tasks, the projects, the mission of our organization. And that actually does lead to that disassociation as a way to kind of protect ourselves from even further emotional strain and stress. And when we are constantly tired and stressed out, we're going to check out. It's just the way our brain works. Next, cognitive overload. I mean, hello, ADHD, right? But burnout can cause additional cognitive overload over and above our general, challenges with ADHD. And it makes it even more difficult for us to concentrate, to make decisions, to solve problems, to engage, right? Engage in a meeting with our coworkers. And I think to cope, we check out as a way to avoid dealing with certain mental demands of our work or our career. And I think that's almost like it's like tripping the fuse box in your house, right? When there's just too much of a drain, it protects itself. And that's something similar. And when we get cognitively overloaded, way beyond our usual everyday ADHD tendencies, then that's going to happen. I think the next thing is that depersonalization. I think that's part of breaking down, checking out. And I think one of those key components is being, depersonalized, where we start to distance ourselves from our work and even the people around us. And I think this can manifest as like a lack of empathy or concern. It leads to that disassociation as a kind of a defense mechanism to kind of separate ourselves from the stress and maybe the people that could be a contributor to that stress. And I think this is tough because many of you I have spoken with or worked with generally like your career, your line of work. You like what you do. But when we're burned out and even working in a toxic environment, it's a shame when we start to lose interest in our kind of chosen profession. Maybe we loved what we do, but we're so burned out that now we're beginning to hate what we do. And that's not good. That's not cool. So, and I think that's why it's important for us to address that burnout quickly, understand those warning signs. And that's why, again, it's important to go back to the previous episode we did about burnout. Getting too burned out, it could ruin your career that you love, and you just need to find the right place to thrive. Maybe you're doing the exact same work in a place that you can do your work and thrive and be fulfilled and be supported. So, next, lack of motivation, right? Burnout often results in a lack of motivation and almost like hopelessness, like I'm burned out, nothing's getting better here, this place sucks, right? And we feel like our efforts are just unappreciated or just a waste of time. And those efforts can be trying to, engage with our boss or coworkers or clients or what have you. And then we actually get to that point where we pretty much mentally disengage as a way to conserve what energy we actually have left, because we still need to go home and be a good family member, right? And try and have some fulfillment in life. And once again, motivation is that lifelong challenge for those of us with ADHD. But motivation takes an even harder hit when we are unappreciated and discounted in work and burned out. So, physical and mental fatigue. Chronic stress and burnout can lead to that physical and mental fatigue. It makes it much more difficult to stay engaged. And disassociating from our work and the people around us, I think, almost allows us to avoid confronting that overwhelming fatigue and chronic stress, so we can actually continue to function on a basic level. I mean, let's face it, if we feel like shit physically and mentally, we're going to check out. I mean, that's just the way it is. And when you need physical and mental activity the most is when we have the least desire to take care of ourselves sometimes. I know I've been there. And I've talked to many of you who have had the same situation where it's just like, can you just take a walk after work or at lunch? And sometimes it's difficult, but that's when we need it the most, right? That psychological protection, disassociation and checking out can be a form of that, protecting ourselves psychologically. And I think mentally distancing ourselves from work, or those of us trying to shield ourselves from negative emotions associated from a job, such as that anxiety, the frustration. Maybe we're getting to the point where we're feeling we're not even like good enough or we should be there. There's also a term, you've probably heard of it, psychological safety in the workplace. And that means that we are safe to not only share new ideas, but talk about our concerns in the workplace. And when we are not safe to do so in your workplace, then we're going to check out. We're going to retreat. We're going to back off. Because it's a shame when you can not only share or contribute good ideas and it gets shut down, but also a workplace and a culture is not going to be able to address any issues unless people are safe to share their concerns and what they think could be done to make the culture better. And last but not least, and I'm sure there's more, but it's that loss of personal connection. I mean, burnout can erode that personal connection that we feel towards our work and others. When we no longer find meaning or purpose in what we do, checking out becomes a way of just disconnecting from the dissatisfaction and even that alienation that I think we feel. Maybe you used to go out to lunch with coworkers and now you sit in your car for lunch. Maybe you went out for a couple beers after work and with those people, and now you're just avoiding it. Maybe you want to share a laugh with our boss, and now it's just strictly business, and you've gotten to the point where you don't even, enjoy or you might even dread those conversations, right? So that's where burnout, I think, gets to the point where we have checked out because there is just no connection with where I am anymore, and that's a shame. And some experts may disagree with me on this statement, but if you are in a toxic workplace and there's just endless chaos that you believe will never end, and you've tried to fix it, and you're confident that things will not be fixed, mismanagement, poor culture, thinking from decades ago about just working people and shut up, do your job, then you know what? Maybe it's not such a bad thing to begin disconnecting, right? That tells me this is not an environment where you can thrive as an adult with ADHD. And as Ned Hallowell says, when I talked to him years ago, there are two big components to thriving with ADHD. One, it's finding the right person to share your life with or marry. And two, finding the right job. Those are where we spend the majority of the hours of our day. So if you are working in an environment, and again, I don't care if you're the CEO and you're reporting to a dysfunctional board, or you're another member of the C-suite, or you're working in lower or middle management or whatever, okay? If you're working in that environment that has forced you to check out, then you need to address burnout. All right, folks, if you are an adult with ADHD, you have resonated with anything I've said, and you need a little bit of guidance and mentorship to maybe figure out how to navigate where you are and possibly next steps, then please hit my website. It's overcomingdistractions.com. Book a quick Zoom chat with me, see if we're a good fit, and then let me know how I can help you. All right, we will catch you next time.